Hey guys, and welcome back to another Design Together workshop. I'm Ahmed, and in this video we're going to be designing a testimonial component. So let's get started. So this is the testimonial component that we're going to be designing in this video. It's made up of a main section frame. Inside our main section frame, we have a background container with this sandy shared style applied to it. And then we have this content wrapper, which contains all this content. The background container has constraints to the left and right and bottom set to them. So if I were to resize my testimonial frame or my section frame, it's always going to stay at the bottom. And my content wrapper has constraints center and center applied to it. So that if I were to resize my frame down to, let's say for iPad, my content will always stay at the center of my section testimonial frame. Inside our content wrapper, we have the tall image asset that we created in a previous video. And we have this testimonial frame with 16 auto layout applied to it. So all the children of this frame, the icon, the text element, and this author frame, they all have 16 pixel padding between them, and that is always going to be maintained even if I were to change my text. Inside this author frame, we have two text elements with 2 pixel padding between them, and this author frame also has auto layout applied to it. The image asset is spanning 4 columns, and then I skipped a column, and then our testimonial frame is spanning 7 columns. So yeah, let's start building this out. So I'm gonna go back to our main desktop frame where we had created these components in previous videos, and I'm going to start creating my section testimonial component. So underneath my fold, I'm going to add a frame by hitting F on the keyboard and just dragging to the edges of the canvas, align it to the bottom of my fold component and to the edges of my desktop frame. I'm going to rename this frame to section testimonial. And then I'm going to toggle my columns on by hitting Ctrl G. And I'm gonna start by adding my image. So I'm gonna go to our Assets tab, and I'm just going to use this tall image that we created in the previous video. So I'm gonna drag and drop that in. I'm gonna have that span 4 columns. So I'm just gonna align it to the edge and have it span 4 columns. I want it to be at the center of my section testimonial frame. So I'm gonna go to Align and click Center. So now it's at 104 pixel from the top and 104 pixel padding from the bottom. Now let's just change this image. So I'm gonna go to my fill, choose image, and I'm going to select this image. And I just found this image on pixels.com. I just searched for female portrait, and it's one of the first ones that came up. Cool. So now we have our image. Now let's start creating our testimonial. So our testimonial consists of a block quote icon, a text block, and a author component. So let's add a block quote icon. So I'm going to go to my plugins, go to material design icons, and search for a quote. Here we go. I'm going to skip a column and have it be on the 6th column. Maybe align it to the top. Increase its size a bit. Let's go to maybe, let's try 88. And maybe let's also increase the size of the icon inside the frame itself. So I'm just gonna hold Option and Shift down while I'm increasing, so that increases it from the center and it maintains the same aspect ratio. So 8 from the sides and 18 from the top, that sounds good. Now let's turn this icon into a reusable component. So I'm gonna cut, go to my atomic elements, go inside my icons frame and paste it in. Just have it center, bring it right. I'm also gonna size it down inside here a bit so that it's the same size as my other icons. Sure. And now let's just click Create Component. So now if I go to my Assets tab, inside icons, I have these block quotes, great. So now let's just go back to our desktop frame and drag and drop them in. So I had it at 88, so I'm going to do that again. Looks good. Now let's add our block quotes in. So I'm just going to grab a text element, have it also span 7 columns. I'm going to go grab some dummy text from blindtextgenerator.com, and I'll post a link to it in the description of this video. Just going to grab some text and copy, paste it inside my text element. I'm going to detach the subtitle text, give it auto height so that my width is always fixed, but my height is responsive according to the text inside my text element. Just gonna make sure it's spanning 7 columns. That was good, 7. That's off 1, 7. And let's create a new block quote shared style. So I'm gonna detach my subtitle text. I'm gonna increase this to maybe 32. Maybe let's bring down the font weight to medium. And that looks better. And now let's turn this into a shared style. So I'm gonna have this take on a navy shared style, and then I'm gonna click on my 4 dots, create new style. I'm gonna call this block quote. So now we have a new block quote shared style. I'm gonna have this span 16 from the block quote icon, 16, and then I'm gonna place them both inside of the frame. Option Command G. I'm going to rename this frame to Testimonial Wrapper. And I'm going to apply auto layout to this frame. So I'm going to go to the right, click auto layout, it detected that 16. So if I were to add any other child element inside this frame, it would create a new instance with 16 padding applied to it. So now let's create our author component. So in a previous video, we had created this card description frame. So if I go to my atomic elements, I have this card description frame, and we could technically use this. So we can use the first text element to take on the author's name, and we can use the second text element to take on the author's job title. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna first rename this card description to something more appropriate, maybe image description. And then I'm going to go back to my desktop frame, and inside my testimonial wrapper, I'm going to add my image description. Gonna make sure that's inside my testimonial wrapper. Perfect. Now let's change our text. So this is going to be her name. And here is the job title. At a company. Cool. We can also change the text styles themselves. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna select the title, and I'm gonna go with a subtitle style actually. And I'm going to give this title, or this job title, a paragraph style. I'm also going to change the color of the subtitle to take on the blue shade style. And our job title, I'm going to go with the navy, attach it, and give it a 50% opacity. So perfect. Now we have our author component with 16 padding between it and the block quote, and 16 padding between the block quote and the icon. We're almost done. Now let's just center this. So I'm going to center my testimonial wrapper to my image. I'm going to go vertical centers. And then I'm going to put them both inside of a frame. So Option Command G. I'm going to call this frame Content Wrapper. So this frame should be at the center of our section testimonial frame, which it is. It should also have center and center constraints, so it always remains at the center. I'm also going to change the constraints of my testimonial wrapper to be right and center, and for the image, it's going to be left and center. Perfect. Now let's just add our background Sandy container. So I'm going to click R on the keyboard to add a rectangle object inside my section testimonial frame. I'm gonna have it be behind the content wrapper. I'm gonna call this one background container. I'm gonna have it span the full width of the section frame. And bring it up to half the block quote icon. Now let's have it take on this Sandy shared style, and let's change the constraints to left and right and bottom. So now if I were to resize my section testimonial frame, my content wrapper is always at the center of the frame, and my background container is always spanning left and right, and it's always fixed to the bottom. Perfect. We're almost done. Let's just style this image asset a bit. So I'm going to give it a effect. I'm going to give it a drop shadow of 0 blur, 16Y, 16X, and 100% opacity. I'm going to change its color to white. I'm going to add another drop shadow on top of it with 64 blur, 4Y, and 16 opacity. And then I'm also going to give it a stroke of white. And width, it's going to be 4. Let's see how that looks. Perfect, that looks good. All that's left is to turn this testimonial component into a reusable asset. So I'm going to select it, cut, and paste it into my molecular elements. So next to the fold, I'm just going to click Command V to paste. I'm actually going to give it a fail to. So I'm going to click plus, and it's going to take on the white shared style. I'm going to change its name to just testimonial. And I'm going to go to the top and click create component. So now if I go to my assets tab, underneath molecular elements, you'll see that you have this testimonial component. So now let's just go back to our desktop frame, drag and drop it in, center a line, and line to the bottom of my desktop frame, and we're done. So in this video, we used our existing assets to create a new testimonial component, and we also created a new blog quote shared style. Be sure to check out the next video where we will be designing a footer component. I'll see you there.